Greetings, Ian from RTO here. Welcome to another Marathon Wednesday, and today it is part 2 of the Vangelis story. This week we're going to look at his solo albums. Officially he's made 20, but there are 21 that are official releases. One sort of repeated. So, Vangelis, of course, great composer, songwriter, producer of electronic, progressive, ambient and classic orchestral music. I really like him. Now, there's majority of his stuff I really like, but there's some stuff out there that's totally out there, and I have got it, but doesn't mean I play it that very often. So let's get a cracking, because we've got 21 to go through today. So coming in at number 1, 21, sorry, not number 1. This is his first official release, and this is called Fais, rêve, soit, long que la nuit. And basically it's part 1 and part 2. Basically it is based on the French student riots of May 1968. He recorded this in 1971 and released it in 1972. So part 1, well, the first 10 minutes of this 15-minute piece is just noises, people talking, chanting, and then the choral bit towards the end, like the last 5 minutes, is pretty good. One thing with Vangelis, you get lots of these choral sort of chants, some like monks sort of thing, and that's pretty good. Part 2, a lot better than side 1. It's more musical. There's a bits of chattering going on, but it's not very memorable, all I'll say. So yeah, your bits and bobs on this are good. It's certainly something you don't put on and listen to, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to give this one only an RTO ranking of 1 out of 10. Okay, then coming in at number 20, we go to 1985 now, and this is the 11th album, and it's called Invisible Connections. 3 tracks on here. First one is Invisible Connections. It's 18 minutes and it's very strange. It's just different sound bites and noises and keyboards, but there's no rhythm to it, there's no melodic sound. It's just a bit weird. Atom Blaster, more of the same, I'm afraid. It's a little bit shorter. This is only about 7.5 minutes. It's not very inspiring. I very rarely listen to this. I did give it to a listen to when I was doing these rankings, but oh dear, was it painful sometimes. And then Thermovision, again, a little different sounds and not very melodic. And to put it blankly, I don't put this album on at all. It's just not one of them albums you want to put on. It's, I don't know, I don't get it at all. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 1.5, purely because there are some little gems of keyboard runs now and again. Okay, then coming in at number 19, we go to the 6th album released in 1978, and it's called Beaubourg. Again, 2 parts. Part 1 starts off very similar to 2112 by Rush with the keyboards, but the rest of it is a bit strange, and it sounds like you're playing a warped record. Remember in the days, if you accidentally left your album out or it got in the sun and it sort of went a funny shape, and when you played it on the needle used to go like this. It's all like that. It's very warped. It's not very good on the ear. Part 2 There's no beat to it. It's just very irritating. Real high-pitched keyboard sounds. It's not for me either. Again, it's just an album of noises to me. It's a little bit better than the previous one, but not by much. So I'm going to give this an RTL ranking of 2 out of 10. Okay then, coming in at number 18. Now this is the 15th album, and it's sort of an official album, but it isn't, but it's his 15th release. It was a special limited edition, and it's called Foros, Timis, Ston, Greco. It's inspired by the Cretan-born painter El Greco. It was published in 1995, and it was a limited edition of 3,000 CD audios sold exclusively at the National Art Gallery and Alexandra Sutas Museum in Athens to raise funds to buy El Greco's painting of St. Peter. Basically, it's a very nice album. I have heard it. It is on YouTube, but I don't own it because you can't buy it. And but they did release it on another album, which we'll talk about a bit later. I don't own this album, of course, as I said, but it's for musically, it's really not too bad. So I'll just give this an RTO ranking of 4 out of 10 because we'll talk about it a bit later. Okay then, coming in at number 17, we go to 1980 now. It's the 8th album, and it's called See You Later. Bit of a change of direction. It's been a little bit more experimental, and now he's returning to many respects to his early works like Earth and 666. He's got some people helping him on here. John Anderson does a little bit of vocals. He's worked with Vangelis quite a lot as John Anderson, and that's another show for another week. Got Raphael Preston doing noises, Chris Tamar voices, Peter Marsh does voices, and violin by Michel Ripoche. First track on here is called I Can't Take It Anymore. It's got some nice drum beat, a few little voice pieces. It's still not very memorable though. Multi-track suggestion. Got a tedious drum machine on, but the actual tune and keyboards are pretty good. It's got all them typical things you expect from Vangelis. Memories of Green. The piano sounds like it's a bit wonky. It's not very good, unfortunately. Not a bit, all of it. The violin on here by Michel Ripoche is really good. This sounds something really off Aphrodite's Child. Pretty good track, I like that. Then we get my favourite track on here, it's Suffocation, and it's got, obviously, vocals are done by Mr. Anderson, and it's a pretty good track. Sort of laid the foundations of what they did later. Then we get See You Later as the title track. It's a bit weird. It's just a little bit too long for me, but the structure of the song is really good, and it's got some nice little keyboard runs from Vangelis. I'm not too keen on this one. It has got a couple of outstanding bits, but I can still listen to the album all the way through because it's not that bad. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 5 out of 10. Okay, coming in at number 16, we get to 1990 now. The 14th album, and it's called The City. Now, it is reported it was produced entirely in a Rome hotel room where Vangelis was staying to witness the filming of the Roman Polanski film Bitter Moon. I say this is a bit of a concept album. So he's done all this in a hotel room, allegedly. First one is called Dawn. This is a wonderful song. It's very, very sort of Blade Runner sounding. It's got some wonderful keyboard interpretations of dawn rising. Absolutely, really nice, lovely atmosphere on that track. Really like that track. Morning Papers. There's also some pan pipes sound going on here. It's quite atmospheric again. I mean, if this is done in a hotel room, I don't know how we managed to get the sound on that. It's really, really nice. And then we get Nerve Center, another really nice piece of music here. Just wonderful keyboard flows, very relaxing. Really good track. Side Streets got a lot of atmosphere. Sounds very, very Mediterranean restaurant sort of music. Excellent little track. Good to See You. Very melodic. Really good background music. That track is. It's something that you can put on when you've got guests round, and it's not too violent and aggressive. It's just gentle. Twilight. It's got some interesting percussion on here. It's a really nice piece of music, and it encaptures twilight. One thing Vangelis is good at is giving it like a title, Twilight, and he produces this sound, and when you think and listen to it, you can imagine twilight. Then we get Red Lights, another dramatic piece, and it looks like he's looking out the lights of the city, and it gives you that atmospheric sort of feel to it. Then we got Procession, my favourite piece. This is full of atmosphere, some of them vocal chords, you get the singing. Absolutely amazing piece of music. It's quite long, but it really flows. It's a strong piece of music. Now, for an album that's allegedly recorded and produced in a hotel room, pretty amazing. I really like this album, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.5. Okay, then coming in at number 15, we go to 1998 to 17th album, and it's El Greco. Now, this is what Vangelis did here. He sort of put the stuff from that album that was a limited edition and then added to it. This is more of a classical sort of album, but it's absolutely fantastic. It's got some guests on here. We've got Montserrat Caballé doing soprano, Krostanos Palatakis on tenor. My Greek is not very good, obviously, and Vangelis. Movement 1. Very atmospheric. The keyboards and the piano are wonderful. It's a lovely piece of music. So relaxing and very, very Greek. Movement 2. There's some drumming on this. Very sound-like from the movement 1. There's a lovely little bit of keyboard in this again. It really is atmospheric. And then you've got these chanting monks. It's just amazing. It creates so much atmosphere and it's so relaxing. And then we get movement 3, which is a new piece that he put in. It's got church organ on this, and I really love church organ sound. Very pleasant piece of music, and it just shows what a master this Vangelis was. Then we get movement 4. This is piano and clarinet working in harmony. Another really relaxing piece of music. Movement 5, which is a new piece. Lots of monk chanting. I love it. It really is a great piece of music to listen to. Then we get movement 6, which is my favourite piece. Very mystique and eerie. The strings are great. Very dramatic, atmospheric. It feels like you're actually in Greece. Really good. Then we have a new piece that he put in on this album, movement 7. A little short piece, played mainly on a harp, I think. It's really nice. The harp is a wonderful instrument. Then we get movement 8. Interesting, this piece is. Starts off with some chanting monks, Then it goes into sort of an Irish jig on the guitar. Quite clever, actually. Nothing wrong with that. Movement 9. Lots of kettle drums in this. Love the kettle drum. Very dramatic. You know, you feel like something's really happening here. And then movement 10, which is the epilogue, features more of this choral sound, which is a great feature on this album. It's so peaceful and relaxing. This is pretty good. It's a really album, if you've had a bad day, pop this on and it relaxes you. It's so surreal and a wonderful piece of music. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.8. Okay, then coming in at number 14, we got a 1984 now. Now this is the 9th album, and it's called Soil Festivities. Again, it's one of these albums that's split into a few movements. Movement 1, there's no titles, starts off with a cracking bit of thunder and rain, which brings you to your attention. It's a long piece. It's got a lovely sort of pulse to it. There's some keyboards from Vangelis that really adds to it. Then there's little bits of keyboard which are textures, and I think it is a bit too long. 18 minutes is a long time, but up until about 10 minutes it's pretty good, and then it sort of fades away. Movement 2, this is a quirky piece, very similar to movement 1, but it's more upbeat, more good tempo, and it's shorter. Movement 3, this has got lots of atmosphere. They've changed the sounds around a little bit. It's still very much like in movement 1, but it's just altered it a little bit, and it's a bit more dramatic. Movement 4, you've got the same sort of beat that runs through the whole of the piece, all the movements. This is just a variation. This is a soothing variation, and it's got that romantic feel to it, which Vangelis used to bring out in some songs. Movement 5, there are little bits of elements of Blade Runner and Chariots of Fire in this, and it sounds good. I love this track, and it's my favourite on the album. Yeah, not a bad album. I just think the first movement is far too long, but it's one of them albums you put on and relax to. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Time for a drink, because I am talking lots today. Okay, then coming at number 13. This is his 20th album, released in 2019. It's called Nocturne, the piano album. It's a piano album of some of his previous songs and a few new songs. So, first track is called Nocturnal Promenade. This is a wonderful piece of piano music, absolute belter. I love piano music, and I like listening to like Vangelis and Rick Wakeman. You know, it's really nice. It's really good piece, and that's a new piece. Now the second track is to the Unknown Man, which is from an album called Spiral. It's a very stripped down version of it. We'll talk more about the actual song, but as just a piano piece, it's pretty good, and it shows how clever and what a brilliant composer Vangelis was. Absolutely brilliant. Then we get Movement 9 from Mythodea, another album we'll be talking about very shortly. It's always been a good bit, but stripped down, it is amazing again. Then we get a new track, Moonlight Reflections. Now, for someone like myself who loves his heavy metal and rock, this is so relaxing. Wonderful piece of music. Through the Night Mist. This is so chilled out. He's almost laid down playing this. There's some strings in it. It just works wonderfully. Early Years. There's not much you can say about this except it's fantastic. Then we get the love theme from Blade Runner. I mean, I love the love theme from Blade Runner, which we'll talk about next week. But this version stripped down, it's still very, very good. Absolutely wonderful. Then we get Sweet Nostalgia. Now, of all the new pieces he's put on, this is my favourite. I don't know why, but there's something about this, and you can put this on and you fall asleep. It's so relaxing. Fantastic piece of music. Then we get Intermezzo, a lovely orchestral piece, of course. Very nice. Got To a Friend. This is such a great piece of music. He is such an accomplished pianist, is Vangelis. Such a clever man he was, and he will be sadly missed. Then we get a very basic version of one of my favourite pieces of music, Le Petit Fil de la Mer. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I love this version. It's pretty cool. Longing, another piece of music from Blade Runner, stripped down to its bare necessities, which is nice. Chariots of Fire. It's a lovely tune. It's just all played on the piano. Fantastic. Unfulfilled Desire. You got some strings on this, and it actually gives it that extra depth. Really nice. Lonesome is another piece from Blade Runner. It's quite nice. Then we get a bit that we talk about next week. It's the main theme from the Conquest of Paradise. Really been stripped down. It's a great bit of music, but as a piano piece, it's still fantastic. Pour Milliard just sounds like a musical box. That's fantastic. This is one of 3 piano albums that I adore. The other 2 are by Rick Magman. This is Sunday morning music. This is chill out music. This is just wonderful. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.4. Okay, and coming in at number 12, we go to 1985 and the 10th album, Mask. It's a dramatic piece in 6 movements, somewhat dark and moody and classical style, which branches into ethnic styles. That's what he says. Movement 1. Love the start of this. You get a gong, great choral, sort of chanty vocals, strings, very dramatic. Movement 2, continuing on from that first movement, lots of little delicate keyboard touches on this, lots of choral on it. Oh, it's just dramatic. Movement 3, you get more dramatic on it. The keyboard swirls on this are fantastic. A little bit more choral, but this is really eerie and atmospheric on this one. Go to my favourite bit, movement 4. Now this reminds me very, very much of Mike Oldfield's Incantations album. You get all this woodwind sounding stuff. You've got choral, but instead of a female singer doing that lead bit, remember that dun 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 dun. It's all done by a male vocal. It's in much of that vein. I know that's not a very good interpretation of Incantations, but you'll get the gist of that. Movement 5. This starts off very much like movement 1, but then there's a fast sequencing of keyboards. It's a bit poppy as well. It's more choral, really good. Then movement 6, it's got that end of the day sort of feel to it. Everything's sort of coming down after a busy day, relaxing strings. Really good way to end the album. Now this is a very interesting album. Listen to it quite a lot. There's a certain theme that runs through it. It's really good background music actually. If you're doing something, or you're reading and you just want something on in the background, it's very good. It's just different versions of the same theme with different sort of looks at it. Takes you on a journey. Excellent album, and I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay, then coming in at number 11, go to the 12th album now, released in 1988. It's called Direct. And this is when he'd moved from London back to Athens. First track is called The Motion of Stars. I like the keyboard sequencing on this. It's got very different layers. Even the drum machine on this sounds good. He certainly knew how to work electronic equipment, did Vangelis, and it is really, really good. Then we get the Will of the Wind. This piece is so got that South American sort of Peruvian, Bolivian feel to it. The panpipes sound great. I think they're panpipes, but it's got that real sort of South American feel to it. Really nice piece of music. Metallic Rowing. This is great. He actually sort of gets a replicate of a metallic rowing sound. Absolutely clever. Brilliant piece of music. Elsewhere, what adds to this is the flute. Gives it extra depth, extra feel to it. Really strong track. Dial Out. Typical Vangelis here, that's all I can say. Dramatic swirls. The drum machine comes in and it's programmed perfectly and it gives it an extra depth. Very solid track. Then we get Gloriana, Hymn à la Femme. I'm not keen on this one. It's just a little bit operatic, too operatic, and I'm not very much into opera. Then we get Rotations Logic. Interesting here. This is an electronic prog song. Pretty good. The Oracle of Apollo. This is something that could have appeared on a soundtrack. It's got them dramatic swirls. It's got feeling and atmosphere. Wonderful piece of music. Then we get my favourite, which is Message. Dramatic start again, that deep bassy sort of synthy sound. The string arrangement on this is fantastic. It sounds like you've got a harpsichord or clavichord. Just very, very typically Vangelis. Then we get another track that I'm not keen on. There's not many I don't dislike. That's one of them. First Approach, I love this. Love the sort of bells and pianos and strings. Really, really good. The last track, Intergalactic Radio Station. It's one of these really good electronic sounds. You get that deep sort of bass note on the synth, a bass synth note. A little bit of guitar in this as well, and it really adds to it. Very good album. There's a couple on here that I'm not a lover of, but it's classic to me. It's the classic sound of Vangelis. Once you put it on, you know it's Vangelis. It's a really strong album, and I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7.6. Right, we've got to the top 10. And starting the top 10, we have an album from 2001, the 18th, Mythodea. This is the Mars Odyssey Symphony that he did with NASA. Pretty good stuff on this, one of his later albums. You've got loads of people on this that have helped him from orchestras. So the introduction of this, just an introduction really, I suppose. Nice ensemble of music. The movement one, lots of dramatics in this. The countdown, the strings. We've got this choral vocal that gets louder and louder and louder as the piece goes through. Movement 2, again, very dramatic, and then chorals are coming through again. It's just fantastic. Movement 3. Now this sounds like the beginning on a zither. It's got a zither sound to it. I don't know if it is a zither, but even though I'm not into opera, the operatic bit in this is brilliant. You've got that underneath that, got the nice like strings, really nice. Movement 4 is about the flute. It just adds an extra layer to this. It just shows what a composer Vangelis was. It's a wonderful piece of music. Movement 5, a dramatic one again. Lots of drums and orchestral pieces, choral, operatic. It's got something for everyone in that one. Movement 6. Now this is a piece that I'm not really into. It's too operatic for me. Movement 7 is very operatic as well. Movement 8 feels like there's lots of wailing. I mean, I don't get opera a lot, real strong opera. I know there's a lot of people that like opera, and I appreciate their what they do, but not for me. Movement 9 is more operatic, but movement 10, it goes back to what the beginning of the album was, very dramatic. Musically, I think the whole album's good, but some of the operatic singing really puts a dampener for me, and it's not going to get any higher, although I like the music of it. And I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7.9. Okay then, coming in at number 9, we got the 16th album now, and this is called Oceanic, released in 1996. First track is called Bon Voyage. This has got the atmosphere that you're really on an ocean line. You remember when ocean liners used to leave port, everyone was on the deck waving, the people waving on the dock, bands playing. It's got that feel to it. You know, it's going on an exciting voyage, and Vangelis again really captures that in this piece of music. It's very short, but he captures it. Then we get sirens whispering. The vocals are quite good. It's a mixture of tribal chanting and a church organ choir. It's really interesting. Dreams of Surf. Once again, you get Vangelis at the piano. It's atmospheric. It's a lovely piece. Spanish Harbour, definitely got that Spanish feel where that Spanish guitar comes in. I've actually used this piece of music, and I went on a cruise, I filmed it, and when we was coming into, I think it was Vigo, because it's quite a nice sort of port to come into, I used this bit of music when I was, because it was early in the morning and I was on the balcony and I filmed us docking, and I used that bit of music. It was just fitting, I thought. That's me waffling on again. Next track is called Islands of the Orient. Certainly got the flavours of the Orient here, the drum sound, that sort of sound you get, you know, when you hear it you think of the Far East, and Vangelis got it right again. Fields of Coral, again, what can I say, he gives you that thing that you're swimming through the coral reefs. It feels like you're going on a journey through the coral looking at it. Really good. Aquatic Dance, you do feel like that you are underwater. You've got that atmosphere and that sort of feel that you're swimming in the blue sea. Then we get Memories of Blue, very chilled out, lovely textures, nice piano, little delicate tinkles of keyboard, absolutely great. Then my favourite piece, it's called Songs of the Sea. There's some guitar in this, it really adds, and this track is fantastic and a really good way to end the album. I think every track on this album takes you on a voyage of somewhere of discovery. Lots of atmosphere. You can sit down and listen to it and you can imagine where you are. I used to put this on a lot when I go on long haul plane flights, because it chills you out and makes you relax. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay then, I need another drink. I'm talking too much today, as I usually do. So coming in at number 8, we have the 15th album released in 1995, and it is called Voices. It's got a few, apart from Vangelis on here, we've got Caroline Lavelle, Stina Nordstrom and Paul Young. Yes, Wherever I Lay My Hat, Paul Young. And the Athens Opera Company. Voices is the opening track. Lots of chants, different cultures. I love this. You've got North American Indians, Arabic sort of feel. It's just very, very clever. Echoes. Really nice piece. when I remember when I did that tribute show to him, this nearly made my top 10. Because I just love this. It is very hard to pick these when you're doing individual songs. It's got so much atmosphere. I love the chanting on this. Really, really good. Come to Me. Now this is the track that features Caroline Lavelle. What a lovely, lovely voice she's got. Put it with Vangelis' wonderful keyboards and composition. Put a lovely voice on it. Fantastic track. Then we get PS. Very short, but it's got some of them lovely little sound bites that just come on a Vangelis track with bells and little bits of like musical box as well. Really, really nice short piece. Ask the Mountains. This is the vocal with Stina Norstam. Again, she's got a very, very nice voice. Really good track. Prelude. One of them relaxing tracks, piano, strings, everything that makes you relaxed. Losing My Still My Heart. This is the song that Paul Young's on. Does a great job. There's a little bit of drum machine on this. Yeah, not a bad track at all. And then we got Dream in an Open Place. There's lots of rain and strings on this. Again, it's so relaxing. This is another atmospheric chill out record. It's not just, I just love the voices that is sampled as well. The chanting, it's just wonderful. I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 8.1. Okay then, coming in at number 7, which is the 19th album from 2016, and it is called Rosetta. Track 1, Origins Arrival. This is one of them orchestral arrangements from Vangelis. It's got lots of wizardry of electronics as well added in there. Really good track. Star stuff. Vangelis certainly is into his atmospheres, effects and textures. There's lots on here. Little sound bites of electronic sound that makes us such a nice melody and adds to the track. Absolutely great stuff. Infinity Dude or something. He didn't have come up with some interesting titles. It's got that choral sound with them plinky plonky sounds. Just there's something about Vangelis and plinky plonky sounds. I just love it. Exogenesis. You can hear different sort of keyboard sounds on this, all different things. It shouldn't work, but it works. You know that jazz musicians always say 12 musicians playing different tunes and doing their own thing. It's very similar to this, but it all works. It sort of entwines, and it's just amazing to listen to. Celestial Whispers. Very soothing. Delicate keyboards, delicate touches on the piano as well. Albedo 0.06. Little bit from another album we'll talk about, that sort of thing. Really works. Really amazing piece of music. Sunlight. Again, he's interpreting sunlight. You listen to this and you can feel the sunlight. It's just amazing. Then my favourite piece is the title track, Rosetta. It's always been one of my favourite pieces of music by Vangelis. It's got them plinky plonky sounds, just like being plucked on some sort of zither or harp. It just adds to this. It's so atmospheric and dramatic. Then we got Fais Descent, a dramatic string and drums piece. What a great modern day classical composer. That's all I'll say. He was, he's as good as, the greats of Strauss and Beethoven. He could write some really good stuff. Mission accompli. Rosetta's waltz, sorry, definitely a waltzing, and it's again. So a Strauss would have been proud of this. It's got that sort of swing that you get with a waltz. Really good. Then we get Purelian, a little bit of keyboard program on here, but this man was just a genius. It doesn't sound bad. It just sounds brilliant. He knew what he was doing. Lots of dramatic strings on this. Elegy. Really struggling with that word. More dramatic strings and atmosphere. Fantastic. Return to the Void. Just lots of layers of different keyboard sounds and textures. Really good. I mean, even in 2016, Vangelis was still coming up with fresh compositions, some lovely textures. A really good album. And I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.2. Okay, then coming in at number 6. This is his second, but they say it's also his first official solo album. Very confusing. It was released in 1973. So it's quite a long time ago. First track is Come On. I love this. We go back to the prog rock sound that he did with Aphrodite's Child. There's some elements from The Dragon, that unofficial album. I love the vocal on this. Really, really good. We're All Uprooted. Greek progressive sound again, but with electronic feel, atmosphere. Really strong track. Sunny Earth, interesting track. It's got lots of cultural sounds on here. You get drums from India. You get the keyboard sort of sound from the Oriental East. Really good. Two mixtures. It's a fusion song. Really, really good. Then we got P.O. There's the start of this is bits that are used, took up from The Dragon. It's also got that Eastern mystique with it. Really, really good. Ritual, we got some good use of voices. It's just texturized as well. Some interesting percussion on here as well, and it all works. Very, very good. Let It Happen. Very mid-70s here. So that radio sort of pop sound, and it really works. I just like that. The City, just lots of drums and sound. Don't understand this one. And we got my favourite piece on this album, my Fais in the Rain. It's unbelievable. We've got the strings on this are just brilliant, and you could tell the sort of direction that he was going to go into. I love the random bit of vocal on this. It just appears and disappears. Watch out, gentle rains on your face, sort of thing. You get these lovely drums coming in. It's so Greek. Very good. A song. Wonderful vocals on here. I don't know who does them, but they sound great. Fantastic. This is a great album. One of my favourites by Vangelis. He's sort of hanging about with his Aphrodite Child, but he's trying to change. There's little elements that come off The Dragon as well. A pretty solid album, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.3. Okay, then coming in at number 5, got the 5th album now, 1977, and Spiral. Opening track is the title track, Spiral. It got this nice little bit of tune coming through, and then you got these keyboard stabs. Dun dun dum dum dum. Not that exact, but that sort of feel. I remember this was 1977. He was really before his time in some respects. Excellent little track that is. Then we get Ballad. It's got some voices on here that he plays about with. We've got some amazing keyboard touches on this. This is a sort of epic. It's really good. Then we get Dervish D. When I listen to this, it actually reminds me of some of my intros. Now, when I listened to this all the way through, I thought, wow, obviously, Vangelis sort of inspired me to create those even on a PlayStation. The way he uses sequencing on here is very good. You know it's all done on computers, but you're either good at that or you're not, and Vangelis was always good. There's some of influence. I know where I get my influences from when I created that stuff, and I think it is actually from this track. Next track, to the Unknown Man. I love this. I love that basic one on the piano album, but I love the marching drums on this. The keyboards are wonderful. It's a clever piece of music. 3+ play, lots of sequencing on this. Lovely swirly keyboards. Then we get to the Unknown Man Part 2. I think they should have just put this as a whole piece of the Unknown Man, because it's as good. It's a lovely piece of music. This is a brilliant album. It does include one of my favourite tracks of all time, of course, and that's why it's up here. I just love listening to this one. I'll give this one an RDO ranking of 8.4. Okay, then, coming in at number 4, we have Vangelis' last album. It was released on the 24th of September 2021, and it's Juno to Jupiter. Also features soprano Angela Guerrero on 3 tracks. Opens up with a thing called Atlas Push. Now that pulsating sound reminds me of the On the Run from Pink Floyd in places. Really good. I love that sound on that. Inside our perspectives, I love this. And it just proved that Vangelis was still at the top of his game in 2021. Outer Space. You can hear little bits of Blade Runner end theme in this. Very, very clever. I mean, he's allowed to do that because he created it. It's very, very good. Then we get Juno's Quiet Determination. I love the keyboard in this. It's got bells as well, delicate bells. I'm sure they're bells. You just don't know what you're getting with him sometimes. It just sounds great. Lots of his old style keyboard sounds on this one as well. Jupiter's Intuition. Got the Symphony drums on this. Just creating great sounds and happy music. Juno's Power. The percussion on this again is fantastic. I like the use of all different drum sounds with strings running through it. It really is good. Space Mysteries Road. There's a lot of bands that don't know how to program a drum machine in an effective way. Vangelis did. It's pretty good. In the Magic of Cosmos, a very short piece. Typical Vangelis sort of thing. You recognise who it is. Bit Blade Runner in places, but it's great. Juno, Tender Call. Love the use of the harp on this, or a harp sounding keyboard. It just really adds extra texture. Juno's Echoes, dramatic. I love his dramatic stuff. Really makes you on the edge of your seat when you listen to that. Juno's Ethereal Breeze, magical interlude piece this is. Very short, lots of choral and bells, nothing wrong with that. Jupiter's Veil of Clouds, some lovely sequence in here. The piano just adds to it. Fantastic. Hera, Juno, Queen of the Gods. This sounds very oriental. It's a wonderful piece of music, just what you need. Zeus Almighty. I think this is an 11-minute epic. I think this is probably one of the best classical composed pieces that Vangelis ever did, and left it to his last album. It is just phenomenal. You know it's for Vangelis, even though it's an orchestra. It's got them little bits that you know that it's Vangelis. Jupiter Rex, another short piece of dramatic music. Juno's accomplishments, very oriental again. We're going back to that oriental with a bit of soprano, which actually sounds nice. Really good. Apo 22, just spoken stuff really. Leads into the last track, and it's in seriatim. Lots of noises, vocal pieces, gone full circle. It's sort of the sort of thing that he started with at the beginning of his career, and he ends on that sort of note. Sadly, this was the last ever album by this great composer, pianist. He just had a really incredible and unique way of interpreting pieces of music and life. I give this an RTO ranking of 8.5. Top 3 now. This kept changing. If I did it again, it'd probably not be the same as this. But here we go. Coming in at number 3, we go to the 7th album, 1979's China. Now on here, apart from Vangelis, we've got Michel Ripoche on the violin. And we've got, now, got to be careful how I say this, Jung Hak Fun Kun Fook Man. Yeah. First track is Chung Ko. One of the most recognisable pieces of music, I think, from Vangelis. It's one of my favourites. Love that high-pitched sort of keyboard sound on it. Fantastic track. The Long March. This is a piano piece from Vangelis, and it's truly amazing. Then we get The Dragon. There is little bits from that album on it that you didn't see, but the kettle drums on this is the best. We get a great track then called the Plum Blossom. Now this is basically Vangelis and Michel Ripoche on the violin with him. It's a wonderful piece. Very chamber music. It's really good. The Tower of Love certainly got that feel of the Oriental on it. It's very gentle as well. Really good. Now the Little Fate. This is nothing to do with the from China thing. It's more South American. It's got some panpipes in it. Really good. Yin and Yang. I love this. This reminds me so much of Jean-Michel Jarre's Fishing Junks at Sunset. It's in that sort of same vein. Really good. Then we get another amazing piece of music called Himalaya. You feel like you're walking in the Himalayas here. It's got that feel. It's got that Mongolian sort of culture, you know, that sound of Mongolian traditional music. Really, really good. What a great interpretation. Then we get Summit. Now, does this refer in that you've reached the summit of Mount Everest? I don't know. But it feels, the translation of this piece is that you've accomplished the climb. Really, really good. It's just fantastic. This is a great album from top to bottom, full of atmosphere, centered around China and Mongolia. The music's sort of that part of the world. Now that one also sounds South American. I don't know if it's supposed to be Mongolian, but it sounds more like South American than Mongolian. But it's still a brilliant album, and I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.6. Okay, then coming at number 2, we have the 4th album released in 1976. 4th album called Albedo .39, Albeldo, sorry. He did a little track on one of the other albums, and that's sort of follow-up from this. Opens up with Polestar, which again is one of the most recognisable pieces of music. Back in the 70s, it was a program on ITV, and they used this music. I can't remember the name of the program, but I do know the name of the track, and it was Polestar, of course, being a bit of a Vangelis fan. I just love them start at the start with them little jabs on the keyboard. Brilliant. Then we get Free Fall. Very interesting percussion on this. And then they've got some sort of bell. It just makes it unique. It's just an incredible piece of music. I just don't know where he creates all this. Where I'd love to have seen what went on in his brain. Mare Tranquilitas. Very short piece that's weird. But it flows lovely into the next track, Main Sequence. Again, this is a progressive rock track done on keyboards. Instead of having like a guitar solo, it's done on a keyboard. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Swords of Orion, very short piece, atmospheric, textures, bells, really, really good. Then we get Alpha, another track full of textures and different layers of sound with a steady stab of keyboard all the way through the track. It's got that sort of keyboard melody that it goes in your head and you can't get rid of it. You listen to this and you keep getting that stab of keyboard sound in your head. Then we get Nuclear Genesis Part 1. Lovely church organ on this at the beginning. I love that. And how he adapts that church organ and brings in very similar sounds on the keyboards. Really, really good. This Nuclear Genesis Part 2. This is a very good prog track on keyboards. Then we get Albeldo 3.9. Now this is just a keyboard, and these are all facts and figures about the Earth. If you watch the live stream tomorrow night, Dave's really into all that sort of stuff, and I'll get him to explain what this piece of music is actually about. It's just facts and figures about the planet Earth. Very clever. Great album, top to bottom, solid stuff. 8.8 RTO ranking for that one. I do like listening to this album. Okay, reached number 1. We go back to 1975 and his second album, and it's Heaven and Hell. On here we've got Vangelis. John Anderson sings on this. Vanna Vittori does some singing, and the English Chamber Choir. Side 1 is called Heaven and Hell Part 2. Part 1. Part 2. Silly boy. And it starts off with Bacchanal. You couldn't get any more prog rock than this. All the elements of prog rock, the drums, and then the keyboard swirls. It could have been done by any band really, but it's just an amazing piece of music and I love it. Then we get Symphony to the Powers B, movements 1 and 2. Absolutely stunning. We got the English Chamber Choir on here, dramatic orchestral pieces, and lots of lovely keyboard swells and bells that you get in prog rock. Absolutely stunning. Then we get movement 3, which is part, I think this is movement 2, sorry, of Symphony for Powers B. Again, it just continues on from the first part. Lots of choir, keyboards, adds to the atmosphere of this track. Sung long ago, so clear. John Anderson sounds brilliant on this. The combination of John Anderson and Vangelis was a pretty good pairing, and I love that track. One of John Anderson's finest vocals, really good. Side 2, it's called Heaven and Hell Part 2, and the first track is called Intestinal Bat. Weird. It's probably the weakest track on this album. It's just some of them weird noises that you got on some of them really early albums. Then we get Needles and Bones. This is really oriental. The bass line is something like you get from Magnetic Fields, but there's a proggy piece. 12 o'clock. A orchestral thing. Lots of choral, vocal, violin. And that violin just keeps coming in and out of the track. Very dramatic. Very dramatic. Really strong piece. Then we get Aries. It feels like you're heading towards a finale of a progressive piece of music. The strings and the keyboards that just keep building. And then we get Away. We're really building up to the end of the album here. I think it just sort of does that, what most prog tracks do. It hits its peak and then it sort of fades away into nothing. What a way to end the album. This is an amazing album. This is classical music meets prog meets electronic, and it works. It's always been my favourite album. It's a fusion of traditional classical music, progressive rock, and the new sound of electronic music. He just made it work, and it is so amazing. And I play this album a hell of a lot. So I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 9 out of 10. Well, we've done that. That was an epic, but I love Vangelis. I just love what he done, and he'll be sadly missed. Sad day when he left us. That's all for today, of course, because it's a big one. We'll be back tomorrow, though. We have got a battle of the bands, battle of the debuts, and it is two pioneers of grunge. We're going to put Nirvana against Alice in Chains. Be a really interesting one. And then tomorrow's album artwork is a band that I'd never really heard much of. We did their album ranking not so long ago in Pretty Maids, and I was really impressed with their album artwork. So we'll be looking at their album artwork. And then don't forget, tomorrow night 8 PM the live stream, British at 8 PM British summertime, with myself, Dave on the text, Rocky on the barking. So we'll be all here for that tomorrow. So have a great day, everybody, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye for now.